Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to our Week 2 Steelers preview. I'm your host, Jim Sella, here with Jay Dash on the spread. Dash, the Pittsburgh Steelers squeaked out a victory in Week 1 against the Cleveland Browns. I know we're not doing a recap segment, but man, was that a close game.
Yeah, I mean, it really wasn't close for most of the game until late there when Cleveland was able to put it in the end zone. You got to give them credit. I mean, they didn't give up, and they made it a close game.
They definitely hung in there, and they scared the hell out of me, and they cost me $100. The bastards.
Oh, well, they're 1-0, so that's all that matters.
Believe. This week, the home opener at Heinz Field. The Steelers take on the Minnesota Vikings. This is a 1 o'clock game on Fox. Don't know how this happened, Dash. The Ravens are on CBS. The Redskins don't play till later, and for some reason, they're playing the Chiefs and the Eagles where I live. Ain't that a bunch of bullshit?
Yep. So no Steelers for you?
I'm going to have to watch it online again or go to Buffalo Wild Wings and eat some barbecue wings.
I'd go that way.
Dash, the Steelers, we both picked them to beat Minnesota, correct, in our season preview that we did, like a quick preview?
Yes.
All right, so we had them starting out 2-0. We're right so far at 1-0. The Vikings look really, really good. Sam Bradford looked like Joe Montana. Dalvin Cook was running all over the place like he's Adrian Peterson. What do you think of these Vikings? Are they really who they look to be, or are they just a team that's getting off to a hot start like last year?
Well, I do think they have a good defense, but yeah, you're right. They got off to a 4-0, 5-0 start last season, and Sam Bradford, he didn't do much of the deep ball last season, and he did have a good completion percentage and everything, but he fell apart as the season went along. This past game, 27 for 32 with 346 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty good right there. If he can keep that up, I mean, what they put around him looks really good to me, man. You got Dalvin Cook, like you mentioned. But they also have Latavius Murray, he only had 2 touches last week, and Jerick McKinnon as well, who had 3 touches. So if Dalvin Cook stumbles in any way, they have some good backups there. And their receivers look good too, man. We talked about Stephon Diggs in the offseason. Obviously, he's their number 1 out there. But they have Adam Thielen too. He had a very big game, 157 yards receiving on 9 catches, and he had a pretty good season last year as well. So this looks like he a pretty good receiver. So there's 2 right there. Then you got Kyle Rudolph at tight end. So there's a lot of weapons out here for Sam Bradford. I think it's all really up to him, and I don't know if he's going to be able to last throughout the season or not. But right now he looks pretty good.
Can the Steelers defense, possibly without Stephon Tuitt, slow that offense down? Tuitt has that biceps injury. The Steelers are calling it week to week. At first, they thought it could be season ending. Bud Dupree's also injured. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. Anthony Chickillo played well in his place last week. But can this Steelers defense be successful if it's missing one of its big pieces? They have depth, but do they have long-term depth?
Oh, obviously it hurts them, but we've seen it in the past. They've lost big names. They've lost Cam Hayward for a good amount of time before, and they really didn't completely fall apart or anything. So I think they'll be okay. It obviously hurts, like I said. Can they slow this Minnesota offense down? I think they can. Like I said before, Sam Bradford not really known for the deep ball or anything, and that's really how you beat the Steelers. In fact, Cleveland could have beat them on a deep ball a couple times last week where it was just overthrown. So if Bradford can hit those deep balls, I think it's going to make it tough on Pittsburgh. But still, I don't see Dalvin Cook running for 127 yards like he did against the Saints. The Saints and the Steelers are 2 different defenses. Now, the Steelers' defense wasn't perfect in Week 1, but they still look pretty good to me. Would they have 7 sacks? And T.J. Watt looked very good, so hopefully he can continue what he showed in Week 1.
Now, I talked to Brandon, the spread's personal athletic trainer, and I asked him about the Tuitt injury. And, you know, when it was first reported that he was probably going to be out for the whole year, and I asked him, is there any chance that Tuitt can play with a biceps tear, even if it's just maybe later in the year? And Brandon said it all depends. If it's a long head biceps tear, he'll be able to play, but he loses about 5% of his strength. But if it's a short head biceps tear or a tear at the insertion point, it's surgery and done for the year. So I can't tell you exactly what that means because I'm not a doctor or an athletic trainer, but kind of what I'm grabbing from it is, if it's just a small tear in the middle of the biceps, it's something that's going to be able to heal up with just some rest and rehab, and he'll be able to work through the season. Obviously, he's not out for the year, so obviously it's the better of the two, right?
Yeah, as of right now, we'll see what happens though, man.
We got to get Brandon on to talk about it. He'll be able to give people a better look into it. I'm just some jamoke who talks on the radio.
Believe that.
So what about Bell and Bryant? I don't want to say Ben looked rusty, maybe here or there, but really Bell and Bryant definitely looked rusty last week. Ben and Brown were on point. Antonio Brown had like 80% of the Steelers' offense or something like that, or 70% of the Steelers' offense last week. Can Bryant and Bell and Ben and Brown all get on the same page in this game? Being at home, Ben usually plays better at home. The offense as a whole plays better at home. Are we going to see the breakout game that we're expecting from this Pittsburgh Steelers offense in week one?
I'm not going to say necessarily a breakout. I'm not looking at 35 points or anything like that in this game. I think it's going to be much lower for Pittsburgh. But considering the opponent, I think it is going to look better. I think the offensive line needs to take a step up from what they did last week, and that's part of the problem with Bell. Now, Bell didn't look the same, definitely. He definitely didn't look like he was in midseason condition for sure. But the offensive line didn't look that great either. I think they need to take a step up as well, and I think that it'll look a lot better this week. The point total may be similar, though.
So I have Ben Bryant, Bell, and Dalvin Cook in my lineup for fantasy. Are you telling me I'm in for another loss this week?
Well, I don't think Dalvin Cook's going to have that big game like he did last week, but I think he can be okay in fantasy. I think he's going to do a little bit in the passing game as well. What did he have last week? 3 catches for 10 yards. So that's 4 points right there. I think he can do a little bit better than that in the passing game, although he won't do as much in the running game. And as for Big Ben, I see him looking better. I think he'll, what do you have, 2 touchdown passes? I think he can repeat that. So I think you'll be all right there. I might look to take Bryant out right now, though, because he did not look good in week 1.
My team's beat. What can the Steelers do to cut back on all the penalties they took in week 1? That was something that really, really killed them. I don't remember the exact total, but I know it was somewhere around like 140 yards of total penalties. You can't do that against a team like Minnesota. They're definitely a lot better than a team like Cleveland, who's an up-and-coming, but not exactly a good team. If the Steelers come out and take over 100 yards in penalties again, their chances to win this football game go down dramatically.
Yeah, there's nothing they can really do besides don't take the penalties, and I think it'll look better this week. Again, the Steelers always look bad in week 1, and it definitely showed last week as well. Coming back home, I think they're going to play a cleaner, better-looking game offensively, whereas the defense, it wasn't perfect, like I said, but if they can just continue what they did, I think they'll be okay. They got to clean up a couple things defensively. Those deep balls could have really hurt them, and there was a couple draw passes by Cleveland as well that could have hurt them. But overall, I think the defense looks okay, and the offense is going to shape up here in week 2.
13 for 144 yards, the penalties. Brutal.
Yeah, that's way too much, and that's a good reason why the game was so close as well. Any Twitter, Facebook, YouTube comments, anything like that?
There's really not a whole lot of comments or questions, I guess I should say, Dash. Mostly it's just a lot of people on Twitter and Facebook trashing Le'Veon Bell, saying he's the reason why the offense sputtered. He's the reason why they couldn't run the football. Him not being prepared, him not being in the preseason, him not being in training camp. To me, it's just completely ridiculous. Yeah, he did look a little out of sync with the offense at some points in time, but it didn't matter who was running the football. Barry Sanders wasn't going to gain yards in this offense. That line just was not blocking for anybody last week.
No, it wasn't, but Connor didn't look too bad, I would say, for how the offensive line played. I thought Connor did the best he could.
I thought they both did the best they could. I really am not. I can't say one did better than the other.
I say Connor did better than Le'Veon Bell.
He ran better, mostly just because he's a straight-ahead runner, whereas Bell's a patient runner, and he had no ability to do that patient running because there was people in the backfield like right away. Whereas Connor just kind of, and that's not a knock on Connor, it's 2 different styles, but he just kind of runs ahead full steam.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what you need. But really, I mean, Le'Veon Bell, he didn't look quite as fleet as Foot this time around. I think it's going to take him a week or two to get back to full speed. But I think he'll be okay. It's not like I think he's done or anything.
Antonio Brown had 182 receiving yards in week 1 against Cleveland. He's not going to keep up 182-yard pace, but can he get to that 2,000 receiving yards?
No, it'll get colder later in the season, and it'll slow down, and he'll come up short. I could see 1,800, something like that, though. Especially if no one else in this offense can step up in the receiving game. Although Eli Rogers, I'm not going to hate on him.
What about the outlaw Jesse James? He came through with a big week for Pittsburgh, 2 touchdown catches. Is he going to keep up this type of production, or is that just a fluke because we couldn't do anything offensively?
Nope, he's going to have 32 touchdowns this season.
He's going to ball out.
Yeah. No, obviously the production's not going to continue in terms of touchdowns, but I think he really didn't do much in terms of catches and yardage, so that all should actually take a step up after seeing what Vance McDonald did in this game. I mean, the first throw to him, he dropped, and that's what we said he's known for. So I like Jesse James more myself until Vance McDonald can show me otherwise. So as of right now, I think Jesse James is okay, and he can have bigger games in terms of catches and yardage.
3 hours ago, somebody posted a picture of D'Angelo Williams and said, we need to bring this guy back. People are still harping on bringing this guy back. It's killing me.
No, I like what they have, man. Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, and that Terrell Watson. I like all 3.
Do you know which Steeler and Viking players, I guess I should say, were teammates in college?
No, I do not.
In Oklahoma. They both throw the football.
They both throw the football. So Landry Jones.
And Sam Bradford.
Sam Bradford.
Ball. Jones was Bradford's backup. Who's better, Sam Bradford or Landry Jones?
Sam Bradford. I'd take him in a heartbeat over Landry Jones, man.
What?
Believe.
Never. At least Landry doesn't crumble every time he gets hit.
All right, so here I got 3 questions for you. Number 1, Sam Bradford threw for 346 yards and 3 touchdowns, like I said earlier, last week in week 1. Over or under 250?
I'm going to say just over. I think he can get somewhere between 250 and 300. I think the Steelers will be able to shut that running game down. But Bradford's so accurate passing the ball that even if they can't push it downfield, he'll complete a lot of passes around the middle of the field. The receivers will be able to get a little run and catch going on. The Steelers' defense still adjusting to that man coverage that they're trying to transition into. So I think catching and running with the football is something that can really catch the Steelers off guard, especially if the receivers run good routes and set quote-unquote legal picks as they run across the middle of the field. So you could see Bradford getting around 300 yards passing. I don't think he's going to throw for a lot of touchdowns, though. I think it's just going to be a lot of yards in between the 20s.
Pittsburgh's run game has to get better this week. I don't know how much better. This is definitely tougher competition, but it is a home game. We're out of week 1 where Tomlin always struggles. So it is going to look better. I know it's going to look better. It has to. But do they, as a team, do they go over 100 yards rushing?
Yeah. I think the offense comes out and shows flashes of what they're going to be able to do this year. I don't think they'll consistently do it throughout the whole game. I think Le'Veon's going to give you enough. I think he breaks 1 or 2, big runs, which will give him some chunk yardage. So I think as a team, easily they can go over 100 yards rushing. Now, I'm not saying that the Vikings defense garbage. I'm not going to say they're going to go out and run all over them. But I mean, between Conner and Bell and the way this line is, the Steelers should be able to get at least 100 yards rushing as a team.
Antonio Brown, what did he have last week? 180-some yards.
$182.
No one else really did too much in the receiving game. Maybe Eli Rogers. Obviously, we mentioned Jesse James with the touchdowns. But there's going to have to be someone step up in the receiving game this week behind Antonio Brown. Who's going to do it?
I think Justin Hunter can come out and have a sneaky good game in the red zone. He's a big guy. He's physical. He knows how to use his body to catch the football. He beat out Sammy Coates. He beat out Kobe Hamilton. He beat out DeMarcus Ayers. Everybody was big on those guys coming into camp. So I think Hunter has every chance to come out and play a good game. The offense just, it looked like it didn't know what it wanted to even do last week. At home, they're so much better. Maybe Todd Haley gets a little less gimmicky. I'm not saying they ran like weird gimmick plays, but you know how he tries to be too smart for his own good sometimes. Just go out, let the offense flow, run a couple 4 wide receiver sets. I think Hunter comes out and has a sneaky good game, maybe 4 catches for like 75, 80 yards and a touchdown.
To pick him up in fantasy.
I mean, yeah, why not?
If
Dude's
he's
going to
do
ball
that,
out.
if you promise me he does that, I will pick him up and play him.
Yeah.
So what's your key to victory then?
Whew. I mean, last week I said that they just needed to be themselves and play the mistake-free football. They definitely didn't do that. They had way too many penalties. So, number one, they got to cut down on the penalties. You're not going to beat a team like the Vikings if you take 140 yards in penalties. You got to continue to play mistake-free football. But really, the offense has got to start showing what they can do. The defense played well last week. They played fast. You mentioned T.J. Watt looked good. That D-line looked real good. Before Tuitt went out, he was in the backfield in like a half a second on the first snap of the game. Hargrave was up the middle constantly in the face of Kaiser. Good. So I think that, you know, the defense is good. The offense just needs to, I don't want to say catch up because we know they're good, but they need to show up. They need to show us what they can do. They need to come out and score at least 28 points in this football game.
I don't know if they're going to get there or not. My key to victory is that run game. We know it looked terrible in week 1 for Pittsburgh, but you go look at Minnesota and what they did against New Orleans. New Orleans ran the ball 21 times, had just 60 yards rushing, a 2.9 yard per carry average, and the longest rush for New Orleans was 9 yards. So Minnesota is tough to run on, and you can see there was no big broken play against them there in the run game. I think somebody, especially Le'Veon Bell, obviously, he got to step up and have a bigger game. They got to find a way to get this run game going, or this could be a loss, I think. And there got to be a big broken play in the run game. I want to see Le'Veon Bell have a 30 or 40-yard run, and if not him, James Conner.
I don't think you're going to see Conner get too many 30-yard runs in his career. He's a little bit on the bigger side.
No, that dude's a baller, dude.
Yeah, everybody's
30 yards ain't that. I mean,
crowning
he's not going to have an 80-yard run most likely. Although, I mean, that's not impossible either. But 30 yards, I could see him having a few 30-yard runs. If he takes over as a starting running back at some point, I could see a few 30-yard runs out of him, man.
Hey, I'm not hating. I'm just saying he likes his ribs. He's a thicker kind of guy.
So, what's the score going to be? Who's going to win?
Whew, this is a tough one. I want to say the Steelers are going to come out and run away with it because it's their home opener. I think I seen somebody say they're 14-2 in their last 16 home openers. I mean, that's a pretty damn good record. I didn't go back and look what they scored in all those football games. This offense, it should be a 30-point offense per game. We've been saying it for a few years. They haven't got there. It's so hard because Minnesota played out of their minds last week. I don't think they're as good as how they played, but I also don't think that they're bad. I'm going to say Pittsburgh wins this football game, but I think it's going to be close, and I think the Steelers squeak it out 24-21, maybe 28-21, but I think I'll go with 24.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something similar, man. Very close, and I think Pittsburgh's going to pull it out as well. They got to find a way to get the run game going, like I said. And Sam Bradford has a lot of weapons out there. So while, like I said, the defense looked great, 7 sacks last week, the pick by T.J. Watt. I did see Sean Davis and Joe Hayden get burnt a couple times on the right side there, though. And there was just they either weren't thrown that way, the ball wasn't thrown that way, or it was an overthrow where if that happens, Stephon Diggs can run under that ball. And Stephon Diggs is a big play guy, so you got to watch out for him as well. But I think it's going to be a similar score to what you say, a little bit lower scoring, 23-19.
Let me tell you this. If the Steelers sack Sam Bradford 7 times, that's not even going to be able to happen because if they sack him 2 times, the dude's going to break something and he's going to be out of the football game. So really, all they got to do to win this game is hit Sam Bradford on the first play of the game, and it's almost a guaranteed victory because you know that dude's bones are so brittle that they just snap. It's like Jay Cutler in that Gridiron Heights video on Facebook. Dude's a walking injury.
Yeah, Minnesota only let up 1 sack last week. I do not see Pittsburgh repeating what they did against the Browns. In fact, I say they have under 3 sacks this week.
Yeah, I'm not expecting them to come out and get 7. And I think you're right, Dash. They did get burned a few times, the defensive backs. Could be, many different reasons. I think, being a little unfamiliar with the defense still. They're kind of piecing everybody together, so that might have something to do with it. But some of the sacks the Steelers got, I want to point out, were also coverage sacks. So
definitely.
They did have some breakdowns, but the DBs did have some good plays. So I think the defense is just going to keep getting better as the year goes on.
I hope you're right, man. That's it.
Hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming back to YouTube. Keep clicking subscribe. We gained a couple subscribers, like 800 people listened to this segment last week. Everybody loves the spread, Dash. I'm pumped.
Ball.